What's up, everybody? If you are an aspiring collegiate athlete, especially a collegiate football player, you want to play college football, you need to tune into this one. Take notes. We're bringing on an athlete here out of Idaho who plays for Boise State University. He's a local guy who played for a local high school at Skyview. So if you are wanting to make a collegiate roster, you need to tune into this show. All right. It's going to be an awesome interview. You're going to hear about his story, the training, and everything that he did to get himself prepared to play at the next level. And we'll hear about his recruiting story and how it was a little bit unexpected for him and the ups and downs of that journey, and then how he took advantage of the situation that was given to him and he took it by the horns and just went. You're going to hear a lot of stories about his collegiate career. And we'll be talking about some of the athletes that he's played with, played against, some of the life lessons that he's learned, and the insight that he'll give to, the high school athletes that are wanting to play college, things that he wishes he would have known. And so we're going to get to know him better on today's episode. But I couldn't be doing this without the help of those around me. And I want to give a shout out to today's sponsor of this episode, which is DeLuca Insurance Group. I'm going to put more information in the description of the podcast, but DeLuca Insurance Group, thank you for supporting the show and being the sponsor of today's episode. If you guys want, check the description of the podcast. You can go and find out all the information you need to there on their website, and hit up the DeLuca Insurance Group for all of your insurance needs. I appreciate them for their support. It's always awesome to have the support of other businesses, and we're all in this thing together. So I appreciate them. Guys, again, tune in, strap up, get your notepads out, get ready to listen and enjoy this one. This is the Gametime Guru. So,
what time is it? Game time!
This is the Gametime Guru podcast, where I interview sports figures from all over the world to help deliver a panoramic view on sports. So whether you're a former athlete, one of the crazies, or simply a casual sports fan, this is the perfect show for you as we peel back the curtains and learn from our guests every single week. I'm your host, Shane Larson, and I'm helping you see sports through a different lens. What's good, everybody? Welcome out to another episode of the Gametime Guru podcast. My name is Shane Larson, host of the show. It's September, and that means football season's upon us. And as you guys know, we're bringing on a football player, collegiate football player here from my alma mater, Boise State University. We're going to get to talk to him about his story. I want to give a quick shout out to everybody who's listened and helped grow this show to where it's at right now. Because of all of you guys who have tuned in over the last 6.5 years, almost 7 years now. We're in 180 countries, all 50 states. And I started in my kitchen. I was a Boise State guy. I graduated in 2017. And I just remember the day, like it was in 2016 when Bob Beeler, voice of the Broncos, came over and was talking to me. And he told me to start recording a show. And I did. And I just got on there, started recording. And here we are almost 7 years later. In January, it'll be 7 years. And we have grown this from just being in my kitchen, talking by myself, to now interviewing sports figures from all over. And it's in 180 countries, all 50 states. Thanks to all you guys. So if you guys haven't listened before, maybe this is your first time listening because you might know our guest and you want to hear some stuff from him, hit me with a review on Apple Podcasts. If you guys have an iPhone or an Apple device, all I ask is just hit me with a review. That helps the show get out to more people. Every review that comes in really helps out. Or even on Spotify, hit me with a review and it will help out. But like I said in the introduction, guys, we're going to be talking to a local product here who is playing football at Boise State University. We're going to get to hear his story. His name's Tyler Crowe. Tyler, thanks so much for joining us, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's awesome what you're doing for the community, for high school sports, for collegiate sports. I really like what you're doing with your show, man.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you. I've been following you for a while, and I told you this over that Helix Mental Performance Camp that you were at just about a month and a half ago. That I've been following your journey for a while. I know it sounds like a stalker, but I've been following your journey for a while. Like I know who you are, like from being a local guy, and it's been really cool to watch you, Tyler. Just kind of seeing like the work you've put in. I even actually, for a while there, when I was like active on TikTok, I was following you on TikTok, dude. I was like one of those guys. I was like, dude, I love this guy. He's doing a lot of stuff and it's cool to watch. So Tyler, I want to rewind the clock and talk about your football journey, and where it all began. So if you wouldn't mind, tell us, where you're from and when you started actually playing the sport of football.
So I'm born and raised. My mom's still in the same house in Caldwell, Idaho. I was supposed to go to Caldwell High School, but I ended up going to Skyview, as you know. I started playing football, like flag football, like as soon as you could. So whenever that is, like 7 or 8 years old. My parents didn't let me do like the first year tackle because they just like they wanted me to wait a little bit. I was 5th grade when I started doing tackle, and I actually started as a O lineman just because I was a big, strong kid and I was blocking people up. And then I think it was like a kick return, and they kicked it to me, and I took it to the house, and then I got moved to running back after that, and the rest has been history. I played both sides of the ball in high school. I played linebacker and running back, and I actually got recruited to play linebacker out of high school. That was like there's a few schools that told me like if you come, you can just do whatever you want, but like for the most part, it was all getting recruited as a linebacker.
That is interesting to know. So it kind of gives me like, if I flash back in Optimus football, I was an offensive tackle. I was so bummed about that for the first 2 years. Then they moved me back to tight end, which is where I wanted to be because I could catch a pass. Like that was my strength was catching. But so if I would have stuck with it all, like through all the whole time, you're telling me I could be a college running back potentially if I would have just stuck with it, right?
Yeah, just changes, man.
all good running backs start out as offensive linemen. That's what I'm hearing here. So cool. So I want to touch base on the high school experience. So for those who are not from the Treasure Valley or even from the state of Idaho for that matter, Caldwell, Idaho has a couple of schools. Like you said, there's Caldwell High School is one of them. There's one called Valley View High School that's just down the road as well. Then there's Nampa High School, and there's Columbia now, and then there's obviously Skyview. They're all within about 10 to 15 miles of each other. And it's all based on where you live and the public schools and so forth. But what made you make the decision to go over to Skyview, Tyler?
So actually, my youth baseball coach, Will Barber, is the principal over at Skyview. And, we were, when I was in middle school, we were kind of talking about like football and just like the best thing for me. It was in between like Skyview and Milton pretty much. And, we just decided Will's a really good guy. Love that guy. I've known him since I was young. So we decided to go over to Skyview.
Skyview's a great school for a lot of reasons. They got a good academic system there. They've got great athletics as well. So that's where I think you made the right decision. Obviously, I think that's pretty cool that you went over there. We had a lot of great battles. I'm old. So, I graduated in 2006 from high school. So I remember the good old Skyview days. We're talking the Matt Ballinger, Louis Beach days, which are names that are far before your time, I'm sure, but I'm sure their names are still there at some capacity. But Skyview was always a great facility. We didn't like coming out to that part of town so much all the time. I went to Meridian back in the day, but when we go out to Skyview, it was fine. We were like, okay, it's a great facility. Like it was the nice school out there.
Yeah,
and I was like,
yeah. They it's funny. They take really good care of the grass. I remember they used to not let the soccer games be on the grass, and they were kind of on the practice field. And then I think it was like my freshman year, like someone complained and got it switched. But Bonds, I don't know if he's still the AD there or not, but he always did a great job of taking care of the grass. I love playing on that field.
Shout out to the ADs that take care of everything like that. I just got to give them a shout out. I'll say that right now. Having worked in the high school media space, athletic directors all do things a little differently at each school, depending on who they are and what school they go to. Skyview's, at least when he was there, was doing it right. So Super cool. So I want to ask you a question about high school athletics. At what point, Tyler, did you know that you were going to be able to play at the next level, or had a chance to play football, I should say, at the next level?
It's kind of funny, but so my dad actually played professional baseball and played at Nebraska, the University of Nebraska. That's where I met my mom. And so it was kind of I was a big baseball kid growing up. And then in 8th grade, I really had a really good football season. So when I kind of took that next step as a running back, a linebacker, and I was truly the best player on the field all the time. And then that spring, I was like, Dad, I don't think I want to do baseball. I think I want to do track and focus to get faster and stronger for football, because I think I could do something with this. And it was a little back and forth there. He wasn't super stoked about it, but he was if that's what you do, I'm going to respect your decision. And we kind of ran with it. Started kind of getting in the weight room that summer and running track and doing everything I could to play at the next level.
Wow. Okay. First off, Nebraska family. Then, are you a Go Big Red yourself? Do you? Obviously Boise State, but
I root for him. I was watching the Colorado game, hoping they'd knock him off, but my dad's been a fan for quite some time, so he's been through the national championships, and then he's been through the last 10 years where it seemed like they can't get a big win to save their life. So yeah, so it's kind of heartbreaking for him, but I root for him.
Listen, I just ask because I'm a huge Buckeyes fan. Behind me, I have the picture of my dad and I last year at the Notre Dame Ohio State game. I'm a big Buckeye, even though I'm a Boise State alum. I've been an Ohio State fan my whole life. I'm not even from there. I'm from Boise. I just loved Ohio State my whole life. Right. But I went to the Ohio State Nebraska game back in 2019, I believe it was. It was 2019, and it was in Nebraska, and that's why I was asking, because that was one of the best fan bases I have ever seen a game with, 90,000 plus. Just loyal fan base. And I was like, okay, I have a massive, their team, their program is kind of struggling a little bit, but they, as a fan base, they're phenomenal, which I think anybody over here in this neck of the woods could probably take note of. And yeah, maybe not complain about $20 tickets. Go ahead. What? Sorry.
They haven't had much success. I think they've sold out 250 straight games or something like that. So that's really just a testament to them and that program. And obviously the volleyball match that was there, then 90,000 people come to a volleyball game, which is insane. So it really does speak a lot of volume to their crowd and the people they got over there in Lincoln.
Heck yeah, dude. Like I said, man, when I went to that game, it was Ohio State, so of course the tickets were going to be more expensive. It's $190 face value for the tickets, and I think I spent $240 a piece for my tickets over there, right. My wife and I, so about $500 for the tickets. And they don't complain about that. And then I come over here. I mean, this is my alma mater. I used to have season tickets for 8 years at Boise State, and dude, people are complaining because they're $40 tickets. I'm like, okay, come on now. We got things. But I won't make you talk too much about that because I feel bad. I have to sound off sometimes.
$70 tickets. I saw people complaining, but the crowd was awesome on Saturday. That place is probably the loudest I've ever heard it. It was rocking. So
yeah, they showed out. They showed out. Give them credit. And we will get to that. I want to talk to you about the atmosphere here in a little bit, but you said something, Tyler, about that stemmed my interest here in this conversation, and it was multiple sports. Come from a family, a baseball dad, and you play football, track, baseball, all the stuff. What would you say to athletes now in today's day and age that are in high school and they're wanting to compete at the next level about playing multiple sports or just focusing? Because there seems to be a lot of focus on just one sport earlier on in life now, just because of club sports and how prevalent they are. But I kind of want to know your opinion on it and how playing multiple sports helped you in the sport of football, which you're now competing at the next level.
I mean, yeah, at our school, they really encouraged us to play another sport. It was kind of expected in the spring. If you weren't going to do golf or baseball, it's kind of expected for you to do track and just do something athletically. And I could speak for most of the guys on the team. Most of the guys on the team are 2 or 3 sport athletes. They almost all of them played basketball. You look at Austin Bolt; he was good at everything. So I don't think. I think it's just another opportunity for you to show your athletic ability. Even these coaches, they'll look at 100 time and give a kid an offer if he's a running back or a wide receiver just because he can run a sub 11 100. So I think it's just another opportunity to help yourself get recruited and whatnot.
Heck yeah. Now in high school, you mentioned that 8th grade and 9th grade ish area is kind of you started putting time in the weight room early on in high school. You're putting time in the weight room. What's what was your weight lifting routine like? Because I always tell my athletes, Tyler, I coach basketball, but I tell them, I'm the weight room matters. It doesn't matter if it's football, basketball, baseball, whatever. You got to hit the weight room. It's going to make a difference at some point when your body starts to mature. And I'm curious, what did you notice in your game when you started hitting the weight room? How did it improve? And what was your workout routine like on a day-to-day basis as a high school athlete?
Well, it was actually fun. So after I decided I want to be a football player, my dad's okay, you got to start working out. You got to meet my dad sometime. He's an awesome guy. We would actually get up at 5 a.m. every morning before school in 8th grade and go to the YMCA over there in Caldwell and go work out. We started off at first, I was just swimming. We didn't really start lifting until I was going into high school, but I was doing a lot of swimming, a lot of aerobic stuff, plyometrics, a lot of jumping, explosive movements. And so that's kind of how I was introduced to working out. And I just went from there. The strength coach at Skyview was Coach Bravo. He's at CUNA now. He was an awesome coach. He took me in. I was lifting with the varsity guys my freshman year because I was a bigger, stronger kid, expected to play some JV and varsity. So I was lifting with the varsity guys. we would do all like the normal, like your main lifts, like squat, bench, clean. I'd say the biggest difference probably between like high school and college programs is college, like it's a lot of focus on explosive movements. Like we do a bunch of cleans, bunch of hip thrusts, bunch of like short movements that like almost translate over to the football field in short bursts and stuff, you know?
That is interesting. And you mentioned the strength coach there, because Skyview's been known for having some strong people over there. Skyview's got like a great lifting program. Strength coach has always been good over there. Did you notice that in high school, making a difference on the field, being stronger and stuff?
Absolutely. I mean, my freshman year, I think I was like 180, 185. And then like my sophomore year, when I was the starting running back, I was like 220. Like that was like really like kind of, I kind of like matured, like hit like puberty, so you could say. And then like I hit the shit out of hit the hell out of the weight room, you know, and that definitely helped. It was amazing just to see like that next step that I took, and like how much like my body was matured, even then more mature than those older guys, you know?
Totally, man.
Yeah.
So I hope the people who are listening, especially the young athletes and the parents, listen to what Tyler just said right there and take note of that. Maybe rewind it and listen to it again. Like, it does make an impact. And sometimes everyone's going to mature at a different time. Their bodies will hit like their puberty and their whatever at a different time. And some people are late bloomers, some people are younger. But like, if you start building that foundation, what's wild is like once your body starts to hit puberty and it starts to mature, if you've already built that foundation around with it, it's unbelievable the difference that hitting the weight room consistently can make for you. I just want my athletes to know that I coach, and anybody else who's listening to this, pay attention to that. You can be all like basketball players, football players, you can have all the skill in the world, but at some point you've got to be able to put the muscle on and be able to continue to compete, because as you get older and get into the higher levels of football or basketball or whatever sport it may be, they're also bigger, stronger, faster. So eventually your skill itself will be neutralized by some of those more athletic individuals and stronger individuals. So you've got to be able to keep up with that and give yourself an advantage. Now, Tyler, in high school, go ahead.
Another thing I want to add is eat. Like I really like that next step that I took was I really focused on like what I was putting in my body. And like at one point I was having like 6,000 or 7,000 calories a day. You know, every morning I'd make like 7 eggs, 2 potatoes, to stir them all up, throw some sort of meat in there, and I would chow down on that twice a day, you know. So there I was really focused on like the meals and the nutrition that I was getting, and that also helped me take that next step.
That's huge. If you can become disciplined at that at a young age, like making sure that you understand how to eat properly and like get the right amount of food, like eat a lot, but eat the right foods with it, you can, your strength can skyrocket.
Oh yeah.
It's unbelievable. And obviously proved to be the case for you. Now, looking at high school, if you just rewind the clock and just kind of think about your high school experience, what was your favorite memory in football in your high school days?
2 that really stick out to me, like my junior year, I'd never beaten BK, and then it was for the conference championship. It was the last game of the year, and we ended up going back and forth. It was a long game, and we beat them on a game-winning field goal as time expired. So that was one, and then obviously on my senior night when I had like 650 yards or whatever and 7 touchdowns against Meridian, that was probably my second favorite one.
So crazy. That's been a well-known game, but statistically and everything, you just were unstoppable. 600 plus yards. Talk to us about that. Like, how does that's like video game numbers. So I know it's like, I don't want to make it sound like we're Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite, like going back in time and looking at high school, but it is a pretty big accomplishment. So I want to like talk about that. I got a lot of high school athletes that are listening to this. So what was it like that night where you just couldn't be stopped?
Yeah, like about halfway through the season, we kind of just it was kind of like we had to make a change because we had gotten blown out by Bora. We were in a close game with Centennial. It was a big jump because we were in 4A, went to 5A, and then like it was about halfway through the season, coach said you're gonna like touch the ball like 40 times a game and play defense and do everything, you know. And I kind of just embraced the challenge that I took it upon myself really to do my best. And then that game, you know, it was weird. You know, most times if you're going crazy like that, you get pulled out in the fourth quarter because you're whooping up on them. But I think the final score was like 80 to like 65. Like it was really like a back and forth game. And all of it was needed. So like I embraced it. Like we would score, they would go down and score, and then it was like, all right, we're right back to it. I think I had like a bunch of explosive runs. That was a game where I really like had a lot of second level breakaways and stuff, and it was an awesome experience for sure.
That's crazy, dude. It reminds me of a football game. I think it was West Virginia and Baylor back in the day. I think it might have been Geno Smith, but I don't know. But Geno and RG3 were playing. That's when they had that like the 70 to, it was like 1,500 yards of total offense between the two teams, and it was wild. That's what it kind of reminds me of, those video game numbers. And that's crazy, dude. Super cool. I want to talk about that transition from high school to the next level. But before that, Tyler, talk about the recruiting process. So high school athletes, the ones that I coach, I mean, there's a lot of like kids that like get really nervous because they don't understand the recruiting process and what they need to be doing, how they can get exposure and everything. So I want to ask you, someone who's been through this process, and it might be a little different than some people, but I want to know like what it was like for you during the recruiting process and how you made your decision to then go over to where you're at now.
So like my recruiting process was actually like super like frustrating and disappointing. And, like I was like almost positive I was going to like have a D1 offer after like my sophomore year. I started on offense and defense and had a good year on both sides. So I was like, like if I take the next step, my junior and senior year, I'll obviously have one. And like I really took that next step my junior year and then even my senior year. And it was disappointing. It was the two things were you're too slow to play running back and then you're too small to play linebacker. And so like those were the two things I was getting told by all the big coaches. I had a few NAI offers and a couple like D2 schools that want me, but I had a couple official visits. I had an official visit to Idaho, and they just offered me a walk-on spot. And then I had an official visit to Idaho State, and I remember it was so frustrating. Everyone on the official got an offer except for me, and I was like super like upset with them. And I was like, I don't even want to go to Idaho State anyways. But I just wanted that like feeling like of an offer and everything. So it was kind of like a no-brainer. Like Boise State had obviously I went to their camp and everything, and we had been in contact forever. And so when they gave me the opportunity to walk on, I jumped all over. I think I told them on the phone. It wasn't even like I was like, I'm coming. Like I'm gonna come prove myself. Like I'm gonna come work really hard. Like I didn't even like have any second thought about that. So yeah, that's pretty much how my thing went. I think a big thing that kids should avoid are like these like showcase camps. Like I don't think there's like, at least for like football sense, like the camps that like really matter are like the school camps, like the Boise State camp and the Washington camp. And like those are a few of the camps that I went to, the BYU camp. Like those are like where I've seen like most kids, like the Bora kid came to the Boise State camp this summer and was just dominating these. The Bishop Gorman was there and he was just dominating these guys on the line. And he left the camp with an offer, and it's a full contact camp too, so you could show your physicality. And I think those are the camps that the kids should attend.
Ooh, that's huge. Thank you for sharing that. That's big time. That's the stuff that I want people to take note of and listen. That's why we have these guests like Tyler on our show, that they've been there and they understand what happens. And what's interesting, your story, like I said, it's a little unique because it's not like, oh, it's this fairy tale, like got my offer over here. Like you had to go through some struggles in the recruiting process and frustrations. How did you stay patient during that? Or did you? I mean, I'm sure there was, you're pissed. Like that's natural, but I just want to know how your mindset kept going there.
Like my mind was all over the place. I mean, Boise State offered me that walk-on spot like a week before signing day. So like literally a week before signing day, I had no idea where I was going to go to the school, and like all like other people in the Valley were already committed and signed on the early signing day. And, it was a really frustrating process, but I think it's just like driven me, and like is always kind of been like my reason why. And my drive is just like, not like, I don't really care about proving other people wrong. It's just like prove to myself that I'm like capable of all these things. And I was going to go probably to Snow College. I was going to go the JUCO route. That was my plan. And then from there, like when Boise State offered me, I took it and I've ran with it.
Heck yeah, dude. And walk-on spots, like it's tough for some people. So this is where I want to kind of get into that transition phase of high school to the collegiate realm. Walk-ons are awesome, but then now you got to prove yourself, right? Now you got to, you're walking on. Now you got to get the spot. Now you got to get on the roster. Now you got to continue to work. Like it's not a guaranteed spot. None of them really are, but you know what I mean? The walk-on spot's always like a chip on your shoulder. You got to always put in the work. You got to be ready to come mentally and physically as frequently as possible, man. And so going from the high school route to now being in college, what would you say was the biggest transition? Was it athletics? Was it academics? Was it everything trying to like transition from that life to that life? Because yeah, you're a walk-on now. You have a little additional pressure on you. I'm curious, what was the biggest transition for you?
I would say that probably the biggest thing at first, just for like any freshman, is the schedule. The schedule is like really tedious, and like the days are long, especially once season comes around. They kind of own you, and then you have to go to study hall, you have to go to class, and that was the biggest transition for me. But like speaking on like the whole like walk-on spot, it like became a point to me where like I was at one time I was like so worried about like getting on scholarship and everything like that. And then it became the point where it was like, I'm just trying to get on the field. Like that will come. Like if I worry about this every single day, like, you know, it's going to end up eating me alive. So it was more like I was worried about like getting on the field, getting playing time, making plays. And when I came in there with that mindset of just like proving myself every single day and like ultimately earning a role on the team and everything, that's when the scholarship came, and it just like happened to be.
So sick, dude.
Yeah.
So sick. Did you notice any difference in the speed of the players? Because one of the things I remember talking to a friend of mine who played professionally over in Italy for football, but he was talking about when he went to like, it was like a rookie mini camp for the Chargers or something. He was a safety at Idaho State back in the day. He went to school 2 years after I did. When he graduated from Meridian. But anyway, he was talking to me about like, even at the rookie mini camps, like he knew he wasn't going to make the team or anything in the NFL, but he's like, these 300-pound linemen were like pulling. He goes, why are they running so fast? Like they shouldn't be able to run that fast. Like that he'd never seen that before, even at Idaho State. Like obviously it's just a different level. So I'm just curious, at Boise State, did you notice anything as a running back, like the speed of the defense, the speed of the offense, the speed of everything, or was it kind of like what you had expected?
Yeah, it's definitely like a slap in the face almost. Like it's crazy. So I came in as a linebacker, and so I'm on the scout team defense, and I'm seeing a guy like Khalil Shakir every single day, like lining up against him, and he's just unreal. Like never seen a guy move like that. Like his body control in the air was just insane. I remember like he made a play, and I was like, holy shit, this is like college football. and then like you said, these linemen that they have, it's not like any slugs or just some overweight guys. These guys are athletes. You know, we were playing like some rec basketball, and that's crazy. Like playing with your high school friends, like rec basketball, and then I was coming to play rec basketball with my teammates, and there's this lineman that like went in between the legs and dunked it, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this 300 pounds and he can jump out of the gym, and you know they're really well athletes. I mean, Ben Dooley, he's a starting guard on our team, and he was like a 4-time state wrestling champion. He's probably can run up to 19, 20 miles per hour. It's crazy seeing how athletically gifted some of these guys are.
So that just kind of points out though, like the athleticism at each level, it just gets higher and higher because now you've got like everyone is a D1 football player, right? Like they're at some level, they're every one of them. So that none of them are like terrible football players, right? Everyone's at different levels, but they all belong on the field. And so you're like, whoa, every level gets better and better, which means you got to continue to prepare. And I want to know, like, from playing linebacker and then also, you know, now running back, how has that, like knowing the defensive side of the ball, how has that helped? Because I've seen a lot of running backs actually transition to linebacker. As a Buckeyes fan, Steele Chambers is a former running back for Ohio State, but the running back room was so deep for him. They had some NFL running backs. He's now moved to linebacker. He's a second-year linebacker, and he's phenomenal at it because he sees the game. But I want to know from the opposite side, going from linebacker to running back, how has that helped you? Because I would imagine it's given you some sort of an understanding of where defense, you know, alignments are and what their tendencies are and stuff.
Absolutely. Not only that, but just like as I've gotten older, just like understanding football more, you know, like kind of when you're a young guy, you're kind of worried about like your job and like what you have to do. But now, like as I'm getting older, know like the difference in coverages. I know like when we're going to check a play and why we're going to check a play. And I think it just ultimately like boosts like my confidence, like, and the ability to like go cut it loose. Cause that's probably the biggest thing for an athlete is just like playing confident and playing loose. And and that transition has come from like just spending hours and hours in the meeting room and spending time with the other running backs, watching film and everything. And just, no, yeah. Well, ultimately, like we watch so much film on like another team in a week. We'll probably watch 10 hours of film on an opponent, and so what like their tendencies are in one-on-one pass rushes, and like where the hole's supposed to be. As a running back, it's kind of reactionary, and things don't always go as planned. But just like watching and knowing those tendencies of like different players and defenses like help you play confidently and fast.
Super awesome, man. The film study, I wanted to talk to you about that too. Film is a huge thing, especially at college football. I talked to Keikoa Nawahini back in the day on the show, and he talked about like that's what helped him a lot is learning how to study film, but he had to learn how to study film. It's not just watching it. You have to actually learn how to study. It's hard to like watch film and actually like apply it to your game. From film study, I guess, what is it like for you? You said you watch hours and hours of film. How do you make sure you take the most or make the most of the opportunity to have the film there with your guys and actually make sure that you're taking applicable notes that can be applied to the field?
I think the biggest thing is just like kind of like putting myself in the situations. Like, so it's first and down. It's the start of the game. They have the play, they have the defense set out there, and I kind of like put myself in those in here. Like, if we had this call on, like, where's the O-line sliding? Where are my eyes supposed to be? What's the situation if it's third down? If it's the logo, the shot zone, if it's short yardage, like what's going to change from a defense? And I think understanding, like putting yourself in their shoes and really understanding like the situations and when it can come. Because like you said, like just watching film is like watching a football game, unless you really dig deep into it and like put yourself in these situations and go through your play calls and stuff, then it can not be beneficial.
I like that. You basically just visualize it and put yourself there. That's super cool, man. I'm not sure if you can actually give details on this because you're a current athlete on the team, but I just talk about the differences in a playbook. When I had Brad Johnson, former NFL quarterback, on my show, and he talked about like the differences in the playbook from college even to the NFL, just like the different calls and how complex they were. And you were just, the reason I bring that up is because you reference like, where does the offensive lineman slide? And I just want the casual people to know, like the general fans, just like athletes are definitely not just stupid jocks. That's the whole thing. Like what Tyler's just saying there, like nobody would even understand that. Like the offensive line slides here, they'd be like, what does that even mean? Like those are the things that are like second nature to you. But I'm just wondering, like, maybe you can't give if you can, it'd be cool to see like what a play call sounds like from a college perspective compared to a high school perspective. But if you can't, just talk about the differences in the playbook and like learning the playbook and the different checkdowns and everything that goes into a play.
Well, yeah, like our play calls are like super long. Like on offense, they're like 7 to 10 word play calls, and like it's formations, it's motions, it's shifts, it's like adjustments, it's the O-line protection calls in there. And then so especially as like a young guy, like Breezy, he's a young running back, I tell him like for him, literally worry about like what we have, because like watching the whole thing, like especially as like a guy who's not like hasn't been around as long, it's super complicated and super difficult learning. So like usually there's like for the running back, there's 2 or 3 keywords in there that like help like tell you what to do. And that's what like I used to focus on. I could listen to the whole play call now, and like I said, like I know where the wide receivers are going, and like it helps me like know where I'm supposed to go and what I'm supposed to do.
Dude, that's so crazy though. Like I just remember Matt Hasselbeck, who was a former NFL quarterback, once said on a documentary he was doing, he said he used to read his playbook to his daughter when he got drafted to the NFL, because he was like, I didn't understand that. He's like, it was so boring, it would put her to sleep as a night, but that's how he like would study his playbook. It was like super thick, and he's like, there was like so many different terminology. Every playbook's different, but like you were saying, everything's different. You got receivers who have to go through their stuff. You got offensive linemen. You got motion calls, and then you got check downs. You got everything. It's crazy, dude. Football's complex. But
yeah, and another thing is like checks. So that they'll signal a play in, and then it's check, and then they're signaling a whole other play in. So if the first play gets checked and they check it, then you have a whole other play that you're supposed to have remembered from the call. And speaking on it is just like it's easier to do it in a practice in like a controlled setting and stuff. But like when you're out there and there's 40,000 people yelling you and you have 20 seconds to get the call, get lined up, get your eyes locked into where they're supposed to be. It's a process that it really takes time to practice and learn, because it's something second nature to me now, but it's something tough to learn for younger guys.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's the great stuff to know, man, because I want people to hear that. You know, Tyler, you mentioned the 40,000. You mentioned just being in a stadium. You know, I want to know what your first time was like when you actually got on the field to take a game snap, and what it was like for you. Like, it's different than practice, and I want to know how were you able to calm yourself? Did you feel like, oh, this is where I belong? It's just a football field. It's just this, or was there a time where you were like, whoa, this is a little bit different?
So my freshman year, I got in on like four. You get to play 4 games. I got to play kickoff on 4 games, and that's like it was kind of just all chaotic. It's just it's go run down as fast as you can and go hit someone, and everyone's screaming, and that was super chaotic. But my second year, my first snap at running back, it was actually crazy. My first snap was, they called a screen pass to me, and I was a little nervous, and Harson's over there. He's like, no, timeout. And we ended up calling the play, and it went for like 20 yards. It was actually awesome. And ever since that moment, I've been like, this is just football at the end of the day, and just play the game. But yeah, definitely in the huddle and stuff, your nerves and anxiety can for sure take over if you let them. So you just have to be able to control that and whatnot.
Super awesome, man. What's the best stadium you've been able to go to or play in since you've been at Boise State, in your opinion?
There's a few awesome ones. I hate to say it, but BYU has a really awesome fan base. It's super loud. I remember can't even hear what the quarterback's saying. We have to go on silent cadence. It's crazy. BYU was awesome. Washington was really cool, and then I'd have to say UCF. UCF was the bounce house. It was awesome.
UCF was cool. That was a tough game for y'all too. I mean, delay and everything in that one, but the atmosphere had to be sick. So super cool, man.
Grab my charger really fast.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
Let's go in here. All right, let's keep going.
Cool. So I guess, at the time of this recording, which will launch this week, but people will listen to this, weeks and even months after this interview, because they'll probably see your name pop up and they'll be like, oh, I want to listen to this interview. So at the time of this recording, you're in the you're at the beginning of the season at Boise State, currently coming off of a loss against UCF at home, last second field goal. But my question for you is, Tyler, at the time of this recording, you guys are rallying up, getting ready for your next game early in the season. I want to know what it's like for a college athlete to have to handle the pressures of, you hear everything on the outside, but you guys are putting the work in here. You trust each other. How do you stay the course when you have a rough start to the season and you hear all this noise on the outside? That's the mental aspect of sports that I really want to ask you about, because that's an important piece. The season's not always going to be undefeated. I hope people understand, like, to go undefeated in a college football season is extremely difficult at whatever level you're in. So, like, it's not always going to be peaches and cream. You have to be able to stay the course and trust each other, even when the outside's chatting and doing their thing. So how do you go about doing that? What is it like to try to stay the course when the season hasn't started the way you guys wished it would?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately it just comes back down to unity. Like you said, people don't understand like the preparation, the hours, and there's hundreds of thousands of hours between all the players and all the coaches and all the support staff that go into just 1 week of trying to win a game, So just being able to like lean on each other during these times, because like Coach Harsin called it, you got a bunch of twidiots out there that sit on their couch all day, turn on the game, and it sucks that we have lost the first 2 games, but I think just getting back to work, honestly, like it really does suck. Like, it's not the way we expected the season to start, but like our goals are still ahead of us, and we can still win the conference and still win a bowl game. And so like we just have to stay the course, like you said.
I love that. Easier said than done. I'm sure, but it's something for, I hope people that listen to it, like, because this episode will launch on Friday. So when you guys are listening to this right now, watch the rest of the season pan out, because it's just interesting to see teams that go through adversity early on in the season and see how they like continue to build. Most of the times in college football, you don't get a preseason. It's not like the NFL or anything. You don't get a preseason. It takes 3 or 4 games to get into your full groove most of the time. And unfortunately, like, sometimes it starts great and sometimes it doesn't. But I can't wait to see where Boise State's at in like mid-October. That's where I'm like looking for. I'm like, okay, let's see how we build off of it. There was a couple years ago. I hate referencing Ohio State when I'm talking to a Boise State guy, but Ohio State, they lost a big game. And I remember their center, Billy, he was known for it. He came into the locker room, he pulled them all together, and he said, hey, listen, everything we still want is right in front of us. I'm going to go get myself a big ring. They wanted to still win the conference, and that's what they ended up actually doing that year. And so you still win a conference championship. There's a lot of things that are ahead of you. It's just like, how can everyone stay together? It starts with leadership and then everybody together. Now, that brings me to my next point, Tyler, is about the brotherhood aspect of sports, especially football. When you're going through adversity, there's going to be even players, not asking for names or anything, but there will be players that are, down. There will be players that are up, and there's players that are neutral and everything. But the brotherhood aspect is what like really pulls people together. Can you talk about the brotherhood aspect of football and what it's shown you, and like the unity aspect of it all throughout all of your years playing football, and how that actually helps pull you through these tough times?
Yeah, so it's actually awesome. I've heard a bunch of stories from other guys that transfers and stuff that like it's kind of turned more and more like in at some schools like it's all about me, and it's all about like what can I do and what can I provide like for myself, and they kind of spend time with each other at football and then they kind of go home. But at Boise State, we really do embrace the brotherhood and spending time with each other outside of the facility. Even when the freshmen first come in, we go do a bunch of like team bonding activities and go take them out on the weekends and show them around the city and try to get them like involved. Because like you said, like with tough times hit, it comes back down to like each other and the people in the room. It doesn't really matter about everyone else or what everyone else thinks. And I think it proves like the strength of the brotherhood when adversity hits. Everyone could be happy when if you're 2-0, if you're undefeated, but when all these trials and stuff hits, it comes back down to like trusting and leaning on each other and building that unity that like we've been through so many things. I mean, shoot, we the decks that we do in the summer, it's like the hardest thing that we do. Like if anyone wants to try it, I ask you to try it. We run on the bleachers. The last day we run like 23 of them, and it's a grind, and it's just awesome like doing that with other people. Like if you're doing that by yourself, it's just like super crappy and like super tiring. But it's awesome just knowing that like you've struggled together. We go out there in January at 6 a.m. outside. We have this thing called mat drills, and it's like 10 degrees outside. We're out there with our shirts off, running around, tug war, like all these different drills and stuff. And it really does like I've met so many people that are going to be in my wedding and be like friends for life just through the sport of football. It's awesome, like the connections that I've made through this program through the last 5 years.
So sick, man. That is so cool to me. And I think that you hit everything that like I could even ask for as far as like the unity aspect. I mean, I've heard about the decks. I mean, I've talked to a lot of football players and stuff that have gone through Boise State. I've heard about running those. That sucks. That makes me want to vomit just thinking about it. That's terrible. But yeah, the just going through those types of things, I don't think people who've never competed in sports at any level will understand that. Like there is something about the locker room unity, the brotherhood aspect of it, or sisterhood if you're in the the girl side of things. It builds this unity, this camaraderie, and like that's why when you get into the season, you lean on each other, you trust each other, you do that stuff, and then even outside of football, it's much bigger than just the sport. So with that being said, I mean, you mentioned, the 5 years at Boise State. I want to know what's next for Tyler Crowe. Like what, like, I know you're focused on season right now. You got school, you got everything going on, but in 5 years from now, like if you could, in a perfect world, Tyler, what would we see Tyler Crowe doing in 5 years from now? You think about 5 years ago now, like 5 years from that, what will we see you doing?
I don't really know yet. I've always thought I've wanted to be like a college football coach, but seeing like the endless hours that those guys put in and like the time they don't get with their families just because, yeah, like I said, their work weeks are probably 120-hour work weeks every single week. So it's kind of crazy. So I can see myself, I want to get my master's finished. So I think I'm gonna try to play another season. If not, I'll try to do some like GA position or something just to get my school done. But I if I could work in sports, that'd be awesome. I want to stay around sport I love. This is obviously what I'm super good at and what I understand the most. So if I could do that in some aspect, that would be awesome.
Heck yeah, man. What about the biggest life lesson that football has taught you?
Biggest life lesson that football, it's funny. We kind of say it just, I feel like everyone, we love football so much, but football doesn't love you back. Like I think you really just have to stand on like who you are when trials and tribulations come up, because if you ask anyone that their career hasn't been perfect, there's been losses, there's been injuries, there's been times where you thought you were going to get to play more, but like the coach went with the other guy. And I think it's just staying true to yourself and being who you are always. And that's what you can stand on. Because as soon as like you lose yourself, then it's hard to get back.
That's huge. That is something I'm going to snip that and put it on social media, but I would totally recommend all of you who are listening to this, rewind that one and listen. That's a big one. So thank you for sharing that. And I guess to kind of wrap up the interview, Tyler, I want to know about like your favorite, like, so you've probably played with a lot of players. So first I'm going to start with like a coach that you've, been coached by, who stands out to you as a good mentor, and what that lesson was, or what you've learned from a good coach. And then I'll ask you about the player side, but who's a coach that you've looked up to, and what was the thing that they taught you that really stands out?
Probably my last two running back coaches, Coach KB and Coach Winston. They still text me to this day, like good luck in the games. Me and Winston have gone out to lunch a few times, and I think they just like a few things have shown me, one, how to be a man, and then Winston really I was a younger guy. He showed me what it meant to be a Bronco. There's a lot of things going into like being a Bronco and being part of the brotherhood. And like once you're a Bronco, you're always a Bronco. And so it was really awesome for him to like take me under his wing and show me what that was all about. Because if there's someone who loves Boise State football more than anyone, it's Winston Venable, and he's been a huge role model for me. And also KB. KB still he texted us after the loss, and he's a super awesome guy. He obviously really cares about us, and it shows.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
And a teammate of yours, if you could, point out, I'm sure there's tons, but if there's a teammate of yours that has stood out to you and has helped you in some capacity, who would it be, and what did they teach you?
Probably he plays at BYU now. It sucks, but Isaiah Banya, me and him came in together. We were in the same class, and just we went through like so many things together, just like even on the weekends playing football, doing, spent so much time around each other that we kind of, it's weird. I feel like in high school, like you grow up around your friends, but like once you get to college, it's like you're like adults. So like you're like really kind of figuring out who you are and figuring out like what you're about and everything. And I think he like helped me become the person I am today, for sure.
That's so awesome, man. I freaking love hearing these stories and just hearing it from you. And I guess the last question I'll have for you, Tyler, is if you can think of someone who is the toughest opponent that you've played, whether like a player, like if that they stand out to you from a game that you've been in, and what stood out to you about that opponent?
Best player. I mean, shoot, I was on offense at the time, but Zach Wilson just freaking had a different way around him. That whole BYU team when they were top 10 in the country, and he like, a lot of people throw a lot of hate on him, but I saw it first-handedly. He put up 50 points on us on the Blues, so I think he was a really good guy. And then I forgot his name. He transferred, but the safety for Fresno State last year, number 32, he didn't play in the first game, and it made a big difference when he was back. He was a guy who was like all over the field, was in the run fit, was in the pass fit a lot, and he definitely made a big difference from that first time to the second time we played him.
Dude, that's cool. Give us some shout outs to some guys, even Zach Wilson, who gets a lot of hate out there from the media. But the ones who've been there,
talented, man. Zach Wilson is a talented guy. I hate to say it though.
Hey,
but he
It's
is.
respect, though.
Yeah.
It's respect. And that's what I think it's cool. That's why I'm glad that I get to have you on the show, Tyler, because, you're giving a perspective from somebody who's been there, whether it's like within your own team, you hear the people on the outside making noise, or you're giving respect to somebody else who on the outside, they're making noise about them. Like, you've been there, you've experienced it. I love how the ones, it's like you said, Harson said, Twitty, it's like the ones who've never been there are the ones who chirp the loudest. And it's kind of funny to me how that always happens, right? They're just talking heads. You've been there, you know it, and you give the respect where it's due. I appreciate it, man. So I just want to say thanks, Tyler. Thanks for joining me for the show. I know it's a busy schedule for you. You got season going on. You got all the school stuff going on. But I appreciate your time and willingness to share. Is there anything else that you'd like to share? Any advice, anywhere we can follow you throughout the rest of your journey?
Last thing I'll leave you with, to like any of the kids listening in high school, is always bet on yourself. Like there's gonna be a lot of people doubt, a lot of people, even like our team right now, there's a lot of people who doubt us and everything, but really just bet on yourself, and you'll be successful in life, man. It's really what I've kind of lived by for a long time now, and it's helped me a lot.
I absolutely love that. Thank you. And that's a perfect way to end it. So I'm just going to say, for all those who are listening, hopefully you guys enjoyed this one with Tyler Crowe, Boise State football player. Keep an eye on it. If you guys are listening to this while the season's still going, which I hope you are, make sure to keep an eye on it. Keep an eye on the stories, see how they grow throughout the rest of the year, see how they handle adversity. We're looking forward to it. And for anybody who's new to the channel or new to the show, just hit the subscribe button on whichever platform that you're listening to it on. And if you have an iPhone or an Apple device of any kind, just leave me a review on Apple Podcasts. It will help this show get out to more and more people. That's how we've continued to grow it. And as you guys know, every Friday we're coming to you with another episode. So take care. Guys, thanks so much for listening to another episode of my show. Now, if you could go and do me a favor, head over to iTunes, give me 5 stars, and leave me a review, it would be greatly appreciated. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your support.